Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you are good. Today we're going to once again be looking at the Poco X3 NFC, but today we're going to be focusing on the cameras. We're going to see how good this phone is at taking photos, taking videos. I've gone out and shot a lot of stuff with the cameras on this thing, and we're going to see how good it is. So let's get into it now. So I've been using the Poco X3 NFC. My last video was a test of the gaming capabilities. You can go check that out if you want. Overall pretty good. So now we're going to focus on probably the next most popular reason to have a phone, which is to have decent photography and video capabilities. So I'll show you some images and photos while I'm talking about the specs. This is all going to be shot from this camera. The Poco X3 NFC features 5 cameras altogether. The 4 main cameras on the rear of the phone feature a 64 megapixel main camera, and that is a Sony IMX682. It also features a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth camera. So that is quite a lot of cameras for a phone that's just around about $200, maybe $250 depending on where you buy it. That's pretty good, I think. At the front of the phone you will find a single selfie camera which has a resolution of 20 megapixels. Let's talk about the main cameras first. The main sensor in this setup of cameras is a 64 megapixel Sony IMX682. Now this sensor isn't particularly powerful. It is also included in other budget phones, especially from Realme. The Realme 7 features this sensor as well. The fact that it can shoot 64 megapixels is quite impressive, but you have to take into consideration that it's more about the quality of the sensor, not about how many megapixels it can shoot. Sure, if it can shoot 64 megapixels, that means you're going to be able to zoom in and keep some quality, but how good is it at capturing light? How good is it at capturing low light video and photos? That is really what makes a camera good or bad. So we can look at some photos here. I do think that it doesn't do a bad job, even though that this sensor is primarily designed for cheaper smartphones. It does pretty well. It certainly punches above its weight when it comes to how much it costs. Is it the most amazing camera in the world? No, but you can get some decent shots, especially here. I've been shooting quite a lot in, good lighting conditions, and you can get some very good shots. I think the colors are pretty good. The color profile is very vivid. So it makes everything look pretty saturated, which I personally like. It's not necessarily the most realistic interpretation of what is there. When it comes to details, I think it struggles a little bit. I think especially if you're going to be shooting something far away, if you zoom in, it is going to lose details. I think in comparison with phones that are roughly the same price, it's going to do a decent job. I certainly think that the processor in the phone that powers some AI features that can improve your images certainly helps. Even though it's a cheap lens, these AI features do make a little bit of a difference. What I like about the phone is that you can quickly switch between your main camera, the ultra wide angle lens, and the zoom lens. Now I actually think the ultra wide angle lens does a pretty good job. It's got a field of view of 119 degrees. So if you're shooting landmarks or you're shooting, landscape, it's going to allow you to take some better quality images. I mean, you can take a look here, look at the difference between the wide angle and the normal camera, and I don't see a massive difference. I mean, obviously it's limited, it's 13 megapixels as opposed to something much higher, but if you're viewing it on a phone screen, you're not going to notice much of a difference. I think it maintains a similar quality. The macro lens works pretty well as well. I mean, sometimes it struggles with the autofocus if you get very, very close, but most of the time the images, it does what it sets out to do. It really focuses on one subject and can blur the background pretty effectively, and that's mostly what you want from a phone's macro camera. It's not going to blow you away though, so if you are viewing it on a large screen, it's obviously going to look a little bit pixelated. So overall, the main sensors, the main cameras here at the rear of the phone, I think they do a pretty good job. It's not going to beat an iPhone, it's not going to beat the latest iPhone or even the latest Huawei or Samsung, because let's face it, this is a $200 camera, phone, and you get what you pay for. But I think it punches, like I said, above its weight slightly. The fact that it's got all of these sensors in a phone that's this cheap, it's pretty good. I think for the vast majority of people, it's going to be absolutely fine. If you are particular about your phone cameras and you really, really want the best quality possible, then you should probably go for something a little bit more expensive with a better sensor. For most people, if you are just shooting for Instagram and social media, this is going to do you just fine. Let's talk about the video capabilities of the phone as well. I have gone out and shot some video with the main sensors. The video resolution is capped at 4K at 30 frames per second. There are a few slow motion options as well, like we've come to expect from most phones these days. You can shoot 1080p video at 120 frames per second, 240 frames per second, and even all the way up to 960 frames per second. However, that last one is limited to 720p, and it's mostly interpolated, which means it's kind of done via AI. And the video quality, I would say, is rather average. Again, it's not going to beat much more expensive phones, but it does a decent job. Like 4K video is always going to look sharp. Does it capture the best colors and dynamic range? No, but it does the job that it sets out to do for a budget phone. It features image stabilization, but it's not the best. It does help a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend running around with a phone and expecting super smooth video. The phone actually features quite a lot of settings and different modes for both photos and videos. For example, you have a night mode. It basically forces the camera to open the shutter for a little bit longer to capture more light. You do have to be careful to hold the camera still, but when you do, it does really improve the quality of your low light images. Shooting in low light is a struggle for most phones. I do think in this mode, it helps a lot. With the other cameras, especially the wide angle and the macro lens, it's not going to work very well in low light. It's really going to struggle. There's a vlog mode in this phone which kind of automatically creates vlogs for you. You just go out and shoot your day, and then you select this mode and it will try and create this vlog for you with some music and some effects. So that's pretty cool if like you want to create something quickly for Instagram or something. And it features all the kind of extra things we've come to expect. So you have full manual control over exposure, shutter speed. So if you really wanted to get a bit technical, then you can improve the quality by going into manual mode. Let's quickly talk about the selfie camera on the phone. Now, there is just a single selfie camera, so it's just, there's no depth sensor. The reason why some phones have two cameras as selfie cameras is because one is used as a depth sensor to kind of separate you from the background, to make the background nice and blurry. You can achieve this with AI with a single lens, however, it doesn't usually look as good. We can take a look here at some selfies that I've took. I think the camera does a decent job. It's 20 megapixels, so it's gonna look sharp. It's gonna be perfect for social media. It's going to do a good job, but it is limited to what it can do. You're not going to be capturing great colors or, you know, great dynamic range with this sensor. I think it can achieve that blurry effect, although sometimes it's not quite as accurate, again, because it's just using AI to do that. So sometimes you'll find it blurs a bit of you out as well as the background. So guys, that is it. I guess that's my review of the Poco X3 NFC cameras. Now, I'm quite a stickler for cameras. I own probably like 5 different kinds of cameras, action cameras. In fact, I just got a GoPro Hero 9, so you know, I spend a lot of money on cameras. But I tend to not expect a huge amount from a phone, especially a phone that is essentially a budget phone. The sensor is limited to what it can do, but it makes up for it by having multiple different cameras, and you can capture some okay quality. It's not going to work well in direct sunlight. It's not going to work well in very dark conditions. That is just the limitations of the phone. But considering the price, I'm actually pretty impressed. Anyone with any knowledge of how to take good photos will be able to get better from this phone than someone who can't, but that is the same with pretty much every camera. Yeah, I think it's okay. I would give it like a 7 out of 10 for the cameras. For the price of the phone, I'm not mad about it. So yeah, that's it guys. I hope you've enjoyed that. My next video will actually be a full review of the Poco X3 NFC. It's not perfect. There are some things that are annoying me that could be deal breakers. We'll find out in the next few days. If you're interested in getting this phone, then stay tuned for that, because I'll do a big full review and let you know what I think. So yeah, that's it guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. So yeah, subscribe if you're into that, but I will see you next time. Bye.